Made here, back with another Faction War video. This one is going to be on the Orcs. So let's dive into the index here and take a look at who we've got. I don't have a whole lot of Orc legendaries. I do end up using them on my team, but I don't really think either one of these are required to get this faction done. Pretty easy to do this one all the way to 21 with just epics. Kreela was available as that fusion. If you manage to pick her up, she is very helpful. I think she's great. I would book her if I were you. But if you don't have the legendary books and you're not going to use her elsewhere, probably not worth it. Warlord's amazing. Growhack actually comes in and does work on this boss with this turn meter reduction here. And then he also is filling his turn meter a bit and putting out a decreased speed. So he isn't used a lot elsewhere in the game, but for the 21 boss for Orcs, he's actually really good. So it's nice to see that he does have a place, even if it's only a very small place. Tila, not that great, unfortunately. She can put out that leech for you for a little bit of healing and an HP burn and some more healing, but I would not build her for Faction Wars or really anything, unfortunately. She's definitely in need of a buff. Robar is just going to kind of come in and do a bunch of damage for you, and he can put out this decreased defense for you as well, which isn't bad. Not a great champion for Faction Wars, but pretty good, and if you've got him, you could definitely build him up for some damage and a little bit of CC and debuffing. So definitely 100% usable for Faction Wars. Warlord is amazing. He's going to help protect your team. Kind of CCing the other team with the chance to put their skills on cooldown there that goes up to 100%. Turn meter reduction. A2's got those shields and the heal. And then his A1 will increase the duration debuffs on the target. This is actually kind of a bad thing for the boss fight unless you time it correctly, because you don't actually want the buffs on the boss, or the debuffs on the boss, to be extended, because it's give them right back to you. And then I do use Angar in the waves. He's great. He's going to be placing provokes on everybody, reflect damage on himself, and counterattack on himself. So he is fantastic for CC, just locks out the waves really well. When they do come in and try to attack him, there's a pretty good chance they'll re-provoke themselves. And then he does place an extra hit if they are under provoke. So he can do a ton of work for you on the waves, but there are other options down here in the epics. Let's take a look at Ultimate Gaelic. He's pretty available for everyone, and he's actually really good for Faction Wars. I do use him on my team. He's got bunch of HP burns he can put out here with his A3. 75% chance to land that, so it's not guaranteed on everybody, but it also decreases the turn meter if they are under an HP burn, and his A1 also has a chance of putting out that HP burn if he's under increased attack, which he can put on himself with his A2 here. Nice to have somebody else that can do this for him, especially for something like Spider. On my team, Kreela can do it for him, but it's easy enough in Faction Wars at least to just have this placed by him personally. And then this also has a great turn meter decrease on it as well. So great champion for Faction Wars, great for Spider. Does a lot of damage. You might have to kind of tank him up a little bit for Faction Wars, but he's actually kind of underrated in general, I think. He can really crank out the damage for you if you build him. Next up, we got Torture Helm. I don't really rate him too highly for Faction Wars. He can bring himself back to life. But as an HP based champion, he's not doing a whole lot else for you other than just some damage. Wouldn't bring him into Faction Wars, and he doesn't really have a great place in the game other than for some cheesy strategies with that self-revive that he's got. Zargala is a good epic that's got decreased defense on her A3. You see her a lot in Arena for that, and this can actually hit pretty hard as well. So she's kind of a mix between a nuker and a debuffer for you. For Faction Wars, she's really squishy, horrible base defense, so I had to really tank her out a lot, which cut her damage down to pretty negligible levels. So kind of not required for Faction Wars to get that decreased defense out there, but it is nice. Hard to build her to be both survivable and a good damage dealer at the same time. I did end up using her for that decreased defense And then her A2 takes a bunch of books as well, but it can have a chance to place that again. It'll automatically just reactivate the skill if it's on cooldown if it does kill somebody, which is harder to activate in the later stages of Faction Wars, but good champion, just kind of hard to gear. Bloodfeather is a champion that my clanmate, the Needless Mage, actually ended up building for stage 21, and she worked out great for him, and he cleared it with her at 50, I believe. She's got this decreased speed and turn meter on her A3, which is the main reason he was using her, I believe, for 21, to keep that boss from taking a turn. And it does require a little bit less crit on that, and this ability, and her A1 as well, so you don't have to build her with full crit to benefit. This one is also placing decreased defense. It's a single target, but it does hit pretty hard. And then this is just a straight attack, again with that increased crit chance. So bring her in if you need some more turn meter control on the boss. She's pretty good at turn meter control for a single target, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend you build her for this coming up through Faction Wars. Definitely more of a niche champion for the boss fights specifically. Next we've got Bone Keeper, who looks exactly like Shaman, exactly like Seer. She's just a different color. Not a great champion. I wouldn't really recommend building her for Faction Wars or really anything, unfortunately. And then here's Shaman. Shaman is a free champion you get really early on in the game. She's one of the few orcs that does have a revive, and that does give him a shield as well. She is kind of meh. She's not a great champion, but if you do need to pick somebody up on your team that's super squishy or something, you might be able to get away with her at 50 for a while on Faction Wars. I didn't end up needing her to do 21, but she could definitely come onto your team. It's just kind of a debate of whether you really want to 60 a Shaman to be survivable enough for 21. And again, you might be able to get away with her at 50, but it's questionable. Next we have got Terror Beast. Not fantastic. He can put out some stuns and reflect damage on allies 2 times a random attack, and then he can reduce some cooldowns, but really not a great champion. Needs a buff. And then we come to Vrask. He's kind of the champion you almost need on this faction, unfortunately. You could definitely get it done without him, but he makes it a lot easier. I was hesitant to 60 this guy for the longest time. I just don't think he's really usable anywhere else in the game except for super early game as a healer. But he is a great healer for the faction, and the boss fight definitely requires a lot of sustain. So he ended up coming in on my team, and I did end up 60ing him. I think that some people have managed to get away with him at 50, which could definitely work, but you have to have pretty crazy gear on him to get the heals popping. Which are coming from his passive here, and they're based on his max HP, which is nice because you can build his max HP up pretty high. Got good base there to build off of. Not great defense or speed. Speed is average, I guess, but he is hitting based off his HP as well, but he's hard to get to do a lot of damage. So basically you just need to max his crit, and that will help fill his turn meter a little bit, and also the heal requires a critical hit as well. And you basically just want to A1 with him all the time, so he's coming back to his turn a little bit faster. His A2 deals a little bit more damage, but it's not much more, and he's not going to be a main damage dealer for you. So he's just there to crank out the heals and sustain your team, and he does that pretty well. But other than Faction Wars, I don't use him anywhere else, unfortunately. And then we got Sandlash Survivor, who is a great champion for Clan Boss, very usable in Arena as well. And she actually came into my team all the way up till 21, when I actually took her off the team because she was putting up this ally protection right when the boss hit, and then he was stealing it, and then every time I hit the boss, I was hurting her. So kind of a niche champion on the boss. You might be able to get away with her on the boss, but she is great everywhere else up until 21, but kind of hard to work around that passive because you can't time it for the boss fight. So I would definitely recommend her for coming up through the stages. Builder for clan boss, for arena. She's a great champion. She can increase your buff durations, and that's one of the main reasons you bring her into clan boss. And then she can do a provoke here on her A1. I didn't actually have mine built with enough accuracy to land this, but that wasn't a problem. She still does pretty good damage on that AoE hit, and pretty good champion overall. I think we've got a couple more here. We've got the new guy and then Seer. If you've got a Seer, you can basically just use her all the way up till 20 and you'll just sail through this. She is a crazy good epic, void epic, and that is going to be mostly due to this Karma Burn ability on her A3. It's a max enemy HP hit. Hits really hard as long as she's got a lot of buffs to eat. She's going to eat the buffs off your team and the enemy team. So it's really helpful for dealing with certain waves like Valks, or if someone's got block damage. Doesn't matter if you got Seer, she's going to rip all that off and kill them all anyways. So if you've got her, she will definitely be on your team. She's a little hard to keep alive on 21, however. But up till 20, you can basically just rely on her to get you through the entire faction. Her A2 is going to put increased crit rate and weaken out on the enemies, increased crit rate for your team. And then her A1 can give her an extra turn, which is nice because it cycles her back around to Karma Burn faster. And then we've got the new guy here, Tuhawk. He is pretty decent for Faction Wars. I haven't tried him out yet, but he doesn't look bad actually. He's going to steal some turn meter, again good for that boss. You can't stun the boss, but this could be useful in all the waves. And then his passive decreases the damage taken if his HP is below 60, which could definitely happen in that boss fight. So he'll kind of keep himself alive with that. And then he's got an AoE here, which will put out decreased speed. Again, good for all the waves, good for the boss, and also increased speed on him. And a little bit of healing there as well. And then his A1 is a 2-hitter, and it can increase cooldowns on their skills. So again, good for waves, for controlling certain minions that might have something you don't want them doing. So pretty good champion. I will try him out when I get him, and we will see how he does in Faction Wars. I think he could definitely come in and do some work for you on that boss fight. Next up, we've got the rares. Not a whole lot going on in the Orc rares, unfortunately. I don't know of any of these other than Gaelic that I would recommend coming in. Gaelic is one of the starter champions and can definitely deal some really good damage for you. I think, not her. I think there are a couple that are okay. Totem isn't bad. She's got an AoE here that puts out the small version of decreased defense, and then she's got a buff strip here and a continuous heal on herself, and then she can put some poison out. So that wouldn't be the worst if you don't have another decreased defense, but you don't really need it for Faction Wars. It's not a necessity. So Totem might come in there. Check out these new guys here. Wyvern Bane puts out an HP burn. I don't have this guy yet. And then he does have turn meter decrease there. That's not too awful. And then decreased speed. So yeah, this guy actually might be decent for the boss fights as well. Turn meter and decreased speed is always great for those. So he might be a usable rare. And then I did pick up a Ripper Fist here. I don't think this guy is going to be that great for Faction Wars. Yeah, I mean, you can put out some decreased attack and some heal reduction for you, but not really a great Faction War champion, or probably anywhere else in the game either. One last champion I do want to mention real quick is going to be Veteran. Veteran might be somebody you have leveled up for Clan Boss. He can come in there and put out a decreased attack for you, and he's defense based, so he's pretty easy to keep alive. He can put out an increased crit rate on your allies if a target's killed, so the chance of that happening is pretty low. Not a great ability for Faction Wars, but his A3 is an AoE that has a chance of placing block buffs, and that could be pretty useful. That's based on his defense and HP, oddly. But he is a decent option for Faction Wars, and might even take you all the way to 21. He could definitely be usable early on, though, for sure. That pretty much wraps it up for the Orcs that I'd like to call out here. take a look at the gear, masteries, and booking on these guys. First up is going to be Angar. He is in a lifesteal set with a little bit of a crit damage set there as well. He is geared for Faction Wars right now. If I was going to use him in Arena, I would bump that accuracy way up. He deals pretty decent damage as an HP based champion. I could definitely get some more HP stacked on him for some better damage, but really I just wanted him for the control in Faction Wars. And the lifesteal set gives him the survivability he needs. He's got some decent crit rate and crit damage here. That could definitely go up if you wanted some more damage out of him. But really, you just need him controlling those waves if you've got him, and that is probably good enough. You can have Seer or somebody else doing the damage for you. Reasonable defense on him as well. Speed is okay. I could definitely deal with some more speed there. Next is going to be Kreela, and she is in a Clan Boss Unkillable build. So her defense is a little lower than I would normally build her if I was going to use her primarily for dungeons. And Arena, she's going a little slow for Arena as well. If you wanted to use her as your kind of blender ally attacker, you definitely want that speed up a little higher, and probably accuracy on her would be good in Faction Wars for the stun. I don't have her accuracy bumped up, but she does still get the job done for me. Kind of a mixed assortment of gear here. I just needed to get the speed needed for Clan Boss, and that's basically all I was looking for, with some damage when I could get it. She is placing the increased crit rate and attack out there for your team, and doesn't need max crit rate. It would be helpful to just go ahead and max that out anyways. It's not up 100% of the time, but it's up most of the time. So that is going to be Kreela. Seer has been covered 1,000 times. She's one of the best champions out there for a dungeon clear speed run. She has enough crit, 100% crit rate, and then stacked crit damage on her pretty high for that max HP hit. And other than speed and accuracy, that's really what she needs. She doesn't need a whole lot of attack. Her max HP hit doesn't base off attack at all. It's just on the number of buffs that she strips and the HPs of the enemies. So she's going to do a lot more damage on high HP enemies like bosses than she will on waves, but she can clear waves no problem as long as she's got enough buffs to eat. So basically, if you're bringing her in on your team, you just need to have some people that can throw out some buffs for her to eat. You can also kind of let the enemies buff up, but it's better to have some sources for yourself as well. Next, we've got Zargala, and as you can see, mine is a little low on attack and crit damage, and that's because of what I was saying before. She's got really low base defense, okay HP, but I had to tank her up quite a bit to be able to survive in Faction Wars. As you can see, her gear isn't that great either, but you know, it got the job done for Faction Wars, and I don't really use her anywhere else, so that's what she got. Next, we've got Ultimate Gaelic. Also, kind of had to tank him up for survival reasons for Faction Wars. He's not even really going that fast. If he was going a little faster, that would make it a lot better as well. He does need 100% crit rate and enough accuracy to land those debuffs, but not a crazy hard champion to gear if you're just using him for the spider HP burn strat. For Faction Wars, you definitely do need a little bit more defense and HP on pretty healthy HP pool there. Next, we've got Sandlashed. I do use her on Clan Boss, and she is in a Clan Boss build. So she's got lifesteal, Clan Boss speed here, and then decent crit rate, not great crit damage. And I didn't actually build accuracy on her for Clan Boss build, but if you were specifically going for an arena build for her, or a dungeon / Faction War build, you could definitely bump up that accuracy and those provokes. And then we've got Vrask. Just kind of bumped his HP up pretty high. Got about 75k there. 100% crit rate. I didn't really worry about crit damage on him because he's not dealing a ton of damage, even if you blast out the crit damage on him. It doesn't need accuracy. Wouldn't hurt to bump up resist on him, just so he can make sure that he's going out there and placing those hits when he does get his turn. I didn't really bother, and he is in a Frenzy set. This is one of the times that I actually found Frenzy really useful. He's going to be hit by that boss for sure, And when he does, he's going to get even more turn meter out of it, and then he'll go back and swing and throw out some more heals for your team. So pretty good use of the frenzy set there. All this gear isn't even maxed. I could get more HP out of this helm, more HP out of these rings and amulets there. But yeah, he's cranking out, I think, about 8k, 10k heals where he's at right now with about 75k. So if you could bump that even more to like 100k or so, you would do some crazy healing for your team. But that is it. I do use kind of a mix of all these. Almost any combination of these orcs that I've got leveled up here will clear 20, no problem. Karila is a little squishy in her current build, so she can go down if I don't have some sort of healing for her. Alright, and we'll just quickly go over the books and masteries for all of them. Angar I don't have booked. Would be nice to book him just to get this cooldown on his provoke ability here, but he definitely doesn't require books. Mostly just going to give him a little bit more damage and this up a little faster, and wasn't required for faction wars. Even for arena, I don't think you'd really need to book him necessarily. As far as masteries, I did go down into Helm Smasher. Probably better if you're going to use him for dungeons and faction wars to take War Master. He'll put out a lot more damage for you in that than he would with Helm Smasher. But I was kind of planning on eventually trying to use this guy in arena. Kind of just went on a standard arena nuker build, and then down into Helm Smasher, and then also kind of a standard. This is usable for clan boss as well. I'm not going to use him in clan boss, but kind of just down here to get these two counterattacks. So that Rila is in Masteries for clan boss or dungeons. She's coming down into War Master here, and then a pretty standard clan boss build in the defense tree. And she is fully booked. If you are going to use her for your ally attacker in arena, you definitely need to book her. Not a bad thing to get these other cooldowns as well. I personally think she's worth booking for anywhere you want to use her. Doesn't need books for faction wars, but they will definitely help. Next up, we've got Seer. Seer is also fully booked. Definitely want to fully book this Karma Burn. Not as important to book her other skills here, but you need these 2 books in Karma Burn just so that's up 4 turns instead of 6. Really helpful there. And then for masteries on her, not completely done with them, but the main one you want to go for with her is just some extra crit damage with Flawless Execution, and then otherwise just kind of grabbing some extra damage along the way down. And then over into the support tree, I'm missing the last tier 5 here on her. If I had to pick one, I would probably go with either Master Hexer or Lasting Gifts, just to keep the buffs up on your team or on the enemy team a little longer. But she doesn't really need it. You could probably even stop before I did and just grab Flawless. And next we've got Ultimate Gaelic. He does not have his masteries done. Again, if you did fully master him, you could come down here into War Master or any of these 3 actually. Not Giant Slayer, but War Master, Helm Smasher, or Flawless Execution would be probably where I'd end up on offense. And then kind of just the standard support build here works fine on him. I just grabbed the accuracy. You could definitely come in here for this turn meter on book would be helpful. Books on him, I don't even know. He is actually fully booked. Pretty useful to book him just to get these cooldowns. Probably not required for faction wars. It is nice for Spider, where I did use him a while back. Just to get back to his HP burn if you're not one-shotting the Spider on the first wave of HP burns out there. But you could definitely use him on faction wars without fully booking him. Next, Sandlash. Sandlash is also fully booked, and that's just to get her on this 3-turn cooldown for clan boss. Again, you could probably just stop if you got that cooldown, and that would be enough. It is nice to grab this extra debuff chance for the provoke if you're going to use her for arena or dungeons. But again, not necessary to grab all those. If you get lucky with books, and just grab this. And for masteries, also a very standard clan boss build down into War Master, and then standard defense tree into those counterattacks. And then we've got Brask. Brask is not fully mastered either. Could definitely come on down here into War Master for him to do a little bit more damage for you, but you don't even really need to go as far as I did with these masteries. Might want to just pick up the first 2 levels here, and that would be enough, to be honest. And then as far as books go, he is fully unbooked. You don't care about the cooldown on this at all. You don't really even want to use it at all. And who cares about his damage? So don't need to spend books on him whatsoever. That is the team. Let's take a look at some runs. Alright, here we are at the boss fight, and I'll just show you what the skills are here. We've got Meddle with Fate, which is where the boss will exchange HP levels with one of your champions. You won't typically do this till he gets down to about a third or a quarter health. And then after that, you will have 12 turns to kill him. So, pretty easy fight up until then, and then you're going to have to kind of win the damage race with him before he can get back to that and do it again. His second ability is going to steal buffs from you and transfer all of your buffs to him, and then takes all the debuffs on him and puts them on you and puts them on everybody. So this is kind of annoying, so you just want to watch when you're placing your buffs for when this ability is going to come around so he doesn't just steal them from you. And then his A1 has a chance of placing a fear that goes up for each buff that's on him. And his 2 minions here will be buffing him as well, so you want to take care of them first so that they don't get the chance to buff the boss here. But other than that, it's basically just a damage race, and you really just need to kill him and watch your buffs, and it's a fairly easy fight. But yeah, I will probably speed it back up here and just kind of show you what I'm choosing to use and not use depending on whether this mirror universe is coming around. So here we go. And there we go. So hopefully that showed you kind of my thought process behind when I was using the buffs and everything. Showed how good that turn meter reduction was on Ultimate Gaelic. The healing from Vrask is just insane, 2.4 mil there. Definitely would be very difficult to do it without him. With my current team setup here, Kreela is pretty squishy because of that build that she's got for Unkillable right now. Angar isn't doing a ton of work on the boss, but he does put up that counterattack, so he gets a couple more attacks in. If you did have him in War Master, that would be even more effective there, but definitely not necessary for this boss fight. And yeah, that is 21 done. Not a great time. It's not something I do every week. I just farm 20 and call it a day. All right, that pretty much wraps it up for the Orcs. Definitely an easier faction once you've got yourself a Seer. I know that's kind of top on everybody's list to pull, and she makes this faction really easy all the way up to 20. Might need some other options to 21, but definitely a faction you can get done without any legendaries. Unfortunately, the rares aren't all that great, but the epics they have in this faction are pretty good. So if this video helped you out, please like and subscribe. I'm trying to make my way to 1,000 subscribers, so if you made it this far, go ahead and throw me a subscribe if you would. And I hope everyone has a great day.